Now that I have your attention, you are about to watch the notes for rule number 4 and rule number 5. So be sure that you follow along. You can use the presentation mode or you can follow my direct instruction. Remember, this is all building to that fractured fairy tale creative writing piece that you're going to do, and we're going to start that next week. So for your asynchronous work on Friday, copy the notes for rule 4 and 5. Then you're going to move on to the practice problems where you'll do rule 3. Write that paragraph. Don't forget to make the highlight rotation. And then you will do rule 4 and 5. We'll save 6 and 7 for next week and have a lovely weekend. Stay gold. Everyone, and welcome to 7 basic rules of commas. So we did run out of time to do the whiteboard for rule 4 and 5. So we're going to take a peek at that now. So remember, the presentation slides are here. So you can certainly not watch this video and follow along just using the slides guides. Your note-taking guides here. We're going to take a peek at that, and then here's your practice. So with the note-taking guide, you should already have rule 1, page 1 done, rule 2, page 2 done, rule 3, page 3 done, and you should be on page 4 for rule 4. And we're going to talk about 2 or more adjectives. So we're going to do notes on rule 4. Then we'll look at the let's practice. And then we'll go into rule 5. And then we'll look at the let's practice. So just keep in mind, something that I won't have built into this video session is you won't have that like pause time to do your sketch notes. So don't forget to go back and add sketch notes. Remember, it's just pictures, words, or fonts to capture the, I guess what you can call the most important pieces of the notes for you. All right, so again, we're gonna be on page 4 and you are starting the notes there. And I'm going to switch over to the whiteboard. Let's see if I can be a smooth operator. Okay, here we are. Hopefully you guys can still see this because I'm going to start a chatting here. All right, so here, rule number 4, 2 or more adjectives. A comma separates 2 or more adjectives before a noun. So where are my tools though, guys? Active pen. There we are. Blue pen. I prepared the blue. So when you have 2 or more adjectives, we have here, the kitten had brown white spots on its back. So when you see this, let's try again. When you see this comma here, let me move this over a little bit. When you see the comma there, that is to allow you to separate the 2 adjectives. Remember, adjectives are words that describe. So in order to get home, we must travel over several narrow, winding, treacherous roads. Notice you don't have a coordinating conjunction in between winding and treacherous because you are listing the adjectives. We're going to go over to this next about the comma rules test. So not all adjectives will have a comma because, in English, we have the exception to the rule clauses that often happen. So here's one for adjectives. What you can do for this, there's like a trick that you can do. So what you want to think about is if you flip the order of the adjectives and it still makes sense, you add a comma. Or if you add an and in between, it still makes sense. So let's look here. If I said the kitten had white, brown spots on its back, that certainly makes sense. If I said the kitten had brown and white spots on its back, that makes sense as well. So that's how you know that, yes, thumbs up, the comma is justified. Same with here. In order to get home, we must travel over several winding, treacherous, narrow roads. Makes sense. You can switch them all up and it still is cohesive. If I said, in order to get home, we must travel over several narrow, winding, and treacherous roads, that makes sense too. So that's how you know the comma is necessary. Now let's look at one where you leave the comma out. Kelly had one furry cat Beanie Boo in her collection. Kelly had furry one cat Beanie Boo in her collection. Kelly had one and furry cat Beanie Boo in her collection. Well, that doesn't make sense, so you ditch the comma. All right, so now I'm going to go back to the notes. I'm back. And you should have this part already filled out. Now I would like you to pause the video, STOP, pause. That means stop. See if you're paying attention. And I want you to do rule number 4. Let's practice. So go ahead and take the TO. Welcome back. I'm glad you had a chance to do questions 1, 2, and 3. So let's take a look at these questions. One of the examples does not require a comma. So we have here, we have a famous horror story by Edgar Allan Poe. So those are your adjectives. So the first thing you have to do is identify where's the comma needed in those adjectives. You also have powerful and brilliant here. And then you have huge, gorgeous, and fragrant. So 2 of these sentences have a commas and one of the sentences does not. So let's take a peek here. We're going to do all the comma rules and then go back. The Masquerade of Red Death is a horror famous story by Edgar Allan Poe. Does that make sense? What if I added the and? The Masquerade of Red Death is a famous and horror story by Edgar Allan Poe. Think about that for a second. Let's go check out the other ones. Serena Williams played a brilliant, powerful game. Serena Williams played a powerful and brilliant game. I think that's like valid. I think that's cool. This next one, Carla sneaked in and left a fragrant, huge, gorgeous bouquet of flowers. Sounds good to me. Carla sneaked in and left a huge, gorgeous, and fragrant bouquet of flowers. So again, as you can see with that comma rule, there is no comma in between famous and horror, but a comma in between powerful and brilliant, comma between huge and gorgeous, and comma between gorgeous and fragrant. All right. Rule 4 in the books. Let's pop back on over to rule number 5. Feeling alive with number 5. And that's not the screen I want, but you can see my other looms that I've done. Here we go. All right. Direct address. When a speaker in a sentence names the person to whom he is or she, should say he or she, let's not forget, is speaking, it is called direct address. The person's name should be surrounded by commas. So you're going to enter that in. Make sure for these examples that you add these little commas here so you can see. Laura, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong, Laura. I think, Laura, you are wrong. There's a nice little cartoony YouTube video that you can watch to see more. So basically when your people are giving like directions or a directive, you will have a comma there. While you were updating your notes, let's go back to here. And that is what you're adding in rule number 5. So at this time, I want you to take a pause, take an STOP. You're going to take a timeout. You're going to do your sketch notes. You're going to do rule number 5. So we're going to take a pause. So take a timeout. Welcome back. I hope you had a chance to do your sketch notes and add your practice for rule number 5. Pay attention now, class. So who is the subject? Who or what are you speaking to? You're speaking to the class. So pay attention now, class. You would have your comment here. Please, Dad, may I use your computer? You are speaking the direct address to your pops. So put please, put a comma, and after Dad, put a comma. Mrs. Carson, where is Zion National Park? You're speaking to the teacher, Mrs. Carson. I almost said Zion. So put a comma after Carson. Okay, so those are the practice. Now moving forward, wrong class. You will complete the practice. So let's take a look here. And I'll review your 1 and 2 because the whiteboard didn't quite work to display your homework, but I'll just take a peek at it when you submit it for this. You're going to do the let's practice. 3, separate the non-essential information. Remember, 1 doesn't require a comma. It's if you need to identify that subject for more details to separate it from the other nouns. And then you're going to do a paragraph about winter. In this paragraph, it must be cohesive. So it must be sentences that can be joined together. It's not going to be listing 1, 2, 3 sentences. When you use rule number 1, highlighted in pink, Rule number 2, highlighted in yellow. Rule number 3, highlighted in blue. The reason why I'm having you do that is because we are setting up for when we do our creative writing piece with Fractured Fairy Tales. Now, the highlighting can be the entire sentence, or it can be just the part where the commas is located. And again, if you're like, I don't know what rule 1 is, it's right here for you. Then you're going to proceed to rule number 2, or 4, double that, and rule number 5. 6 and 7, we're going to save for next week. So once you're done with that, you'll go back to the weekly agenda and you'll see where to submit it. You'll submit practice rule 3, 4, and the paragraph in rule 5. And when you click on that, you see that it's here. And you just upload the practice sheet that looked like this. And this is what you upload. Now the notes, as you can see in the weekly agenda, we are going to collect the notes on Wednesday. So now here's my YouTube ending. All right, guys, thank you for watching my video. I hope you learned so much more about commas and that you can apply them to the everyday life. Commas are everywhere. They're useful tools. Even though they're small, they are mighty. Stay gold. Have a solid weekend.
Stay cool.